Good afternoon, everyone. This is really an exciting time at Nebraska Farm Bureau. We, yesterday at our annual meeting, elected a new president, and so it is certainly my privilege to introduce him to you today. Mark McHargue has served on the Nebraska Farm Bureau Board for over 16 years now, 7 years as a board member, and then 9 years as the first vice president, now being elected as president of the Nebraska Farm Bureau. Mark has an extraordinary amount of experience. He's had the opportunity to travel on trade missions around the world representing farmers and ranchers, and he's been very involved at the state level, implementing policy, working with our policy team here at Nebraska to implement the policies that have been passed by our grassroots members at county farm bureaus around the state. So Mark is very well positioned to be the president of Nebraska Farm Bureau, and I congratulate you, Mark, on being elected president of Nebraska Farm Bureau, and certainly look forward to Mark's time as service. And without any further comments, I will turn the podium over to Nebraska Farm Bureau President Mark McHargue. Mark.
Well, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. And Steve left the organization in great shape. And so as we move forward, I would be remiss to say if I don't recognize that I stand on the shoulders of great leadership and want to continue our mission and vision from here because of your leadership. So thank you, Steve. Well, just to address the media, probably a lot of people have asked me, so what do you want to accomplish in the next, 100 days or the next year? What are your goals? What are your, where do you want to go? Well, the goals and the mission, the vision of Farm Bureau has not changed. Just who is at the helm and who is going to be the spokesman for the organization has changed. And that's one of the things I'm just really excited about is representing Nebraska farmers and ranchers, both in Nebraska, both in the U.S. and nationally or abroad. And I've always enjoyed carrying the voice of agriculture. We have such a great story to tell. The production that we are accomplishing today is really almost a miracle compared to years ago. The efficiency, the environment that we have cleaned up, that we are really stewarding very well. And I want to help tell that story so those in Nebraska and abroad and nationally really understand the role that Nebraska farmers play in the grand scheme of the economy of this country. So a couple ways that I plan on doing that: continue to grow the relationships that I've been afforded as vice president. We'll grow those key stakeholder relationships. Those are going to include community leaders. So we're thinking about chambers, bankers, education professionals, and then you move that into the legislation arena. Senators from all across Nebraska. I will work hard to develop a relationship with our senators so that they know who I am, and that when we sit down and have a conversation, we can have a robust conversation about the things that are affecting agriculture, but I really want to understand the things that are affecting them and the things that they want to work on in their district, so we can find some really shared values, shared things that we can work together to move our state forward. And then finally, the business professionals in the state. A lot of our large businesses employ so many of the people that live and work in our communities. And to make our communities great, we need to make sure that our businesses continue to thrive. As well as that, just within the leadership arena, we have a great membership base, and I plan on touching base with our members from all across the state. We have a very diverse state, both geographically and I would say culturally, and it's really important for me to be the spokesman. I need to understand their desires and their dreams and the issues that they're working on. And then finally, I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't mentored and invested in as a leader. And I really hope to return that. I want to mentor those that are new in agriculture, especially within the leadership arena within agriculture, and look forward to spending time and investing my time in the next generation. So those are my opening remarks. Would be ready for questions, I guess.
So Mark, this time I'm going to ask all those who are participating in the call, if you have a question, please raise your hand and we will get you in queue to get that question answered. We'll get your mic open so you can ask the question directly of Mark. We'll start, Mark, with the first question from Don Walton. This one relates to the news this morning in regard to a reaction to Tom Vilsack being selected as the choice for President-elect Biden as Secretary of Agriculture.
Yeah, that's a great one to lead off on. We all know that the leadership does not stay the same, and it's important, like I said earlier in my remarks, is that that I build a relationship with those key stakeholders in agriculture. I would say Vilsack is one of those, and the nice thing about him that he does have some good experience. So when it comes to agriculture, I think it's important that we don't miss some big steps, and so really having someone that has sat in that chair, I think, is a positive thing, and really look forward to working with him as we continue to grow agriculture in the United States.
Okay, Mark, our next question will come from Kurt Ahrens with the Nebraska Farmer.
Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
My question is probably one that that you've thought about too. Is what do you see as the biggest challenges for Nebraska agriculture moving into 2021?
Yeah, I'll answer that question. Maybe even a little broader than 2021, but I think it's really the need to figure out where agriculture needs to position themselves moving forward, largely when it comes to adopting new technologies, being able to be connected as they do that. What are the niche markets? What are the carve outs that a farmer can do that will really put him in the driver to succeed long term? I think we have a tremendous commodity base in Nebraska. We're on the top 1 through 6 on most of the commodities that we grow, and we are great at doing that. But I think the need on marketing, helping develop markets is incredibly important. We know that when we have trade disruptions, for instance, with China, that it was devastating to our market. The government stepped in and helped us out, but we would rather certainly experience bringing in that money through working and selling our crops. And so any disruption like that is really key. So going forward, I would say trade, and then just helping us in agriculture as a whole look at all the opportunities that we have to increase our profitability.
Thank you, Kurt. The next question will come from Chad Moyer. Chad, please go ahead with your question.
All right, thanks very much. Congratulations, Mark. Just a recap of the virtual annual meeting that delegates were involved in yesterday. Were there any big policy discussions? What would you say the highlights of that from yesterday were?
Chad, the highlight from yesterday is that it worked virtually, and we had great discussion. I was just really excited that our delegates used the format. They used it well. We had good discussion, had good debate. I think all the issues really got vetted very well. President Nelson did just a great job of getting that all moderated, and I thought it really came together. No mystery at all, though. Cattle markets were one of the things that we talked about considerably. Primarily, a part of that was because Nebraska Farm Bureau put together a cattle task force that really looked at the cattle markets, and so out of that task force, there came a number of recommendations, but just a couple of highlights. We're certainly for finding ways to increase the cash sales, whether that means increasing the shared negotiated sales in the fed cattle market, or different ways to do that. And then also some reforming confidentiality requirements and provisions for the mandatory price reporting, making sure we have good transparency there. Another thing that we actually talked about a fair amount was meat processing. We all know that when COVID came in, that incredible disruption when our packing plants slowed down just a little bit. And I think we saw where we were pretty vulnerable there. That also related into much lower prices for our producers. And so there was just some general interest around how do we grow our smaller meat processing facilities, all the way from just your local to maybe a mid-size. And so we put in some language there to encourage that. And then I would say one of the final things, our delegate body was real interested in making sure that if there are some economic development funds available from the state, that we make sure we get those targeted into agribusiness type things, micro business, ag-related businesses, because we know if we can grow our businesses locally, regardless what type of business those are, but in rural areas is primarily ag, that's really gonna help as we look at the decline in population within our small communities.
Thanks for the question, Chad. Our next question will come from Steve White, NTV.
Congratulations, Mark. Question, Chad kind of stole my question. So another Vilsack question. Did you think it was important that the Biden administration pick somebody with more Midwestern roots with that corn, cattle, ethanol background, as opposed to there'd been talk of maybe picking somebody from more of an urban background with a focus on the nutrition title?
Yeah, great question, Steve. It's really not even it's not a difficult question at all. Of course, we would rather have someone from the Midwest. I mean, we know that we are the breadbasket of the world when it comes to producing food for the world, fiber, energy. And so it is so critically important that we have someone that actually understands the base of where so much of our commodities are produced.
All right, I'll just remind you that if you have a question for Mark, please go ahead and raise your hand. We'll get you into queue. I do have another question here from Don Walton. Mark, this one regards back to the Biden administration. Would you like to see them restore some sort of TPP trade relationship?
Yeah, that's another great question. I think we would have to kind of answer that question in a little larger scope of just trade in general. I think we have to look at what the Trump administration has already accomplished and then weigh that against, just the straight up TPP. I think we've clicked off a few of those things that TPP would have done for us, but I think exploring any new trade agreement or any way that we can actually advance trade, level the playing field, making sure that the U.S. producers can compete on a worldwide scale, I think is worth looking at.
All right, thanks, Don. Next question will come from Ken Anderson. Go ahead, Ken. Ken, you should be able to unmute your mic and you should be able to access.
There we go. All right.
Perfect. Thanks,
Congratulations,
Ken.
Mark.
Thank you, Ken.
Climate change is probably going to be a big issue under the new administration. So give me your thoughts on climate change. I know there's possibly opportunities there for farmers, but there's probably also some concerns.
Yeah, so you're going to get right after it there, Ken. Thanks for that easy question. I think we do have to realize that the climate is changing, and I think that's a really important topic that we within agriculture need to tackle. I think we don't have to really weigh in on the fact that what's causing that necessarily and that whole rabbit trail, but the fact that I think our weather is, the storms are probably more frequent and more severe, I think is fairly well documented. What I think, Ken, is the important part of the question is that I think ag is very well positioned to help have solutions in that arena. And so I think there's a lot of different companies that are trying to kind of figure out how to address this, how to how to incentivize, how to structure some of these packages that kind of get after climate change. And it's really a broad thing to tackle. But when you look at what we do within agriculture, the amount of crops that we grow that are sequestering carbon, we can really be a part of the solution. So I think the trick is just navigating how we do that. But the fact that agriculture is contributing to the solution, I think, is a really important conversation that we need to be talking about.
Thank you, Ken. The queue is open, so if you have a question for Mark, please go ahead and raise your hand. And it looks like we've got another question from Steve White. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, Mark, I know a little bit about your history, but maybe tell folks about farming with your boys and your brother, raising hogs and popcorn, two of the things that I certainly enjoy with my family, and just kind of the diversified background that you have there in the Central City area.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, for the question. Yeah, you have been to our place a lot, and I've always appreciated our relationship, and you do a great job covering ag in central Nebraska. And so, yeah, just a little bit about our operation. I do farm with my brother Paul and his wife Anna, and we farmed together for almost 30 years, and it really is the way that affords me to do this position. I do have several kids. My oldest, Andrew, is actually farming near Chapman. He has an operation that he runs on his own, but we do share some equipment back and forth. And quite honestly, he's the one that I call if I have a question about what kind of seed I need to be planting. He's the one that I call, and he lets me know what's going on. My second son, Jordan, we own a construction company together there in Central City. And then my daughter Rachel lives in Michigan, which is too far away. And then our youngest daughter Karis is at home. But our operation is a diversified operation. It's irrigated primarily, corn, soybeans, popcorn, and we have a large hog operation. But along with that, we also do organic cropping and conventional cropping. So we really have a pretty broad understanding of agriculture just in general. And I think that really bodes well for my understanding, being able to lead this organization and really understanding a broad scope of agriculture in Nebraska.
Thank you for that question, Steve. The queue is open. If we have another question, please go ahead and raise your hand. We would take it now. And Steve Nelson is here as well if you have a question for Steve. All right, I don't know as though I'm seeing any more hands go up. Maybe one last call for a question. I will let you know if you're thinking of one, just real quick to remind you that this video is being streamed live on Facebook, so you'll have the opportunity to check it out later if you want to pull video from there. And certainly we have recorded it so we can provide video to you as well of the news conference if you need information there. And Mark, it looks like right now the queue is empty. So if you would have any closing comments.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. No, just really excited to be in this position and having the delegates desire for me to lead them, and I put a lot of trust in them. And our delegates are some of the smartest people in Nebraska, I believe, and they have the ability to come up with a lot of solutions to our problems. And there's a reason that they're a part of our organization, and I am humbled that they elected me as a leader in a leadership position. Looking forward to working with those that are on the call to help tell our story as well. And anytime that you want to talk to me, I'd sure be willing to visit with you. So thank you, and thank you for being on the call today.